When talking about fighting games, someone won't fail to mention Marvel vs. Capcom or MVC, and with good reasons. It's a popular franchise and arguably one of the most influential games in the crossover and fighting game genre. In this video, we'll focus on the first game's PS1 release. If you grew up with the console, I find it hard to believe you haven't heard of the game. But did you know that the PS1 port is miles different from the arcade release? This video aims to show that, so let's get started. Let's be honest, if you didn't know the differences, then we're probably in the same boat. We never played the arcade version. Imagine my surprise to find out that people consider the PS1 port a nerfed version. It was confusing as this was the only version I knew at the time. But now I know where they're coming from and I understand their sentiments. This isn't to say the PS1 port is bad. The gameplay is still okay, and considering that a lot of the changes were due to hardware limitations, the PS1 release is still very impressive. Let's start with the biggest change, which is the lack of tag team battles, one of its defining features. This affects the gameplay by a huge margin. In the arcade version, you choose 2 characters to play as and an additional assist. This was crucial since there were obviously good team compositions and assists. Not to mention, this affects other features like character switching, crossover combinations, and duo team attacks or DTA. With the PS1 port, the gravity of it is out the window. You'll be playing 1v1 fights and just so happen to have a partner. This is not to say that the fighting is bad. It's still functional and okay. You just don't have the tag team system and all it encompasses. With the lack of tag team battles comes the partner system unique to the PS1 port. Instead of getting a second playable character, you have to choose between partner hero or special hero, both having pros and cons. A partner hero is a character on the playable roster. Instead of being a playable character, they instead act as your assist. Having a partner hero allows you to do the crossover combination, which is essentially activating your character's hyper combos at the same time. A special hero is one of the assist characters. It still functions the same, except it can be used indefinitely for the whole fight. This can cause balancing issues, especially when you choose one that's considered really good. And when I say choose, I mean choose. You don't randomly get one. You actually choose which assist you want in between fights. Obviously, you can't do a crossover combination with this one. Regardless of your partner type, you'll still be able to do duo team attacks. Originally, DTA lets you control both of your characters simultaneously at the cost of 2 levels of meter. This lets you freely wail on the enemies since the meter is on infinite for the duration, allowing for free hyper combos. In the PS1 port, the mechanics been changed by a large degree. How it works depends on your partner type. With a partner hero, you don't call your partner but instead summon a clone of the enemy. This is due to the console's hardware limitations. This is a deal breaker for players because the DTA added another layer of gameplay and arguably complexity to the game. This was why choosing characters was so important. And despite all I've said, this implementation is still rather unique. You have to decide between not doing a DTA or adapting with the hand you've been dealt with. If you choose special hero, DTA calls your partner to do their assist attack for the entire duration. This makes sense since the assists aren't controllable. At the same time, this is sort of a letdown since you can already summon your partner anytime. The only reason to do a DTA at this point is to take advantage of the infinite meter, but even that can be bypassed by a secret option which I'll mention later. To be fair, the amount of tweaking done to make DTA functional is commendable, but it doesn't match the original and one could successfully argue that DTAs on the PS1 fall short. I would personally suggest to stick with partner heroes despite the lack of a second playable character since it's the closest we can get to the original mechanic. Next up is the amount of rounds per fight. In the original, there was only 1 round requiring both characters to be knocked out. This made sure fights didn't take too long. On the PS1, it was changed to first to 2 rounds, since there is only 1 character in the fight per player. Each round, all red health gets healed, giving the winning player some leeway but not by much. As a fun trivia, all health goes back to full when fighting Onslaught's second form. A fun change, or rather addition, is the inclusion of delayed hyper combos or DHC, which was in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or MVC2 for short. DHC is cancelling a hyper combo midway to chain into another hyper combo. In MVC2, you DHC into one of your character's hyper combo. In the PS1 port, since there's no second character, you chain into your own hyper combos instead. In the context of this game, this is crazy. It's a big change you have to remember, especially if you're coming from the arcade version. Not to mention, it's really fun. Backporting this mechanic is a welcome addition. I honestly don't know why it's here though. The best thing I can think of is that this port was more or less in development at the same time with MVC2's arcade version. The release dates aren't far from each other, but this is all conjecture on my part, so don't take my word for it. By now, it's decided you don't play the PS1 port if you want the original tag system. Emphasis on original because there is a tag team battle called Crossover. In Crossover, you get the tag team battles but you don't choose your second character. This is how it works. Each player chooses a character. The character the other chooses will be your second character, hence Crossover. I see this as an attempt to retain the tag team aspect while trying to skirt around the console's limitations. Similar to DTA, the attempt is appreciated but falls short because it just can't compare to the original. It's still worth a try just to see what characters you'll be dealing with. The next big change that I won't show off because of its scope are the graphical changes. The gist is that some animation frames and stage details were removed. I assume this is due to the console's limitations. Honestly, you won't really notice this unless you've played the arcade version. If you're curious, there's a video that shows the differences between versions. I'll put a link down in the description if you want to see that. From this point, the changes I'll mention aren't as big in scope as the previous ones. First are the secret characters. There are 6 secret characters in the game, 7 if you count Onslaught. In the arcades, you can access them by highlighting a specific character and doing a series of inputs. You have to do them every time you want to play a secret character. In the PS1 port, they streamlined this. All you have to do is beat the game with specific characters. They're really obvious and characters are unlocked forever as long as you save the game. Second change involves Ryu's changed form. For those who didn't know, Ryu can switch fighting styles to accommodate for the absence of Ken and Akuma in the roster. You do this via a half-circle back motion plus any of the 3 punches. This burns a level of meter. In the arcade version, you can only change styles when in the fight, and changes don't carry over to the next fight. This means you have to always burn a level of meter. In the PS1 port, you can immediately start with either Ken or Akuma by holding a button while choosing Ryu. The best part is the change carries over per fight. You don't have to use a level anymore. This is definitely a good addition, especially for those who want to play Akuma or Ken from start to end. I admit this has some repercussions in terms of game balancing. Next change involves the Blue Bomber. Mega Man gets an additional hyper combo after beating the game. In true Mega Man fashion, you get the Magnetic Shockwave. The move isn't added to the moveset like Magic though. Like Ryu, you have to hold a button, in this case select, when choosing Mega Man. You do the hyper combo via a quarter circle back plus 2 punches. This burns 1 level of meter and functions similarly to Onslaught's own. A weird change was done to the game's camera. Whenever you do an air combo, the camera will zoom in per hit. I don't know why this was done. Up next are loading screens. As with most PS1 ports, if you're used to the original, then this could be unbearable, but for someone like me who grew up with this version, it's not that bad. This version did try its best to soften the blow of loading. When you win a fight, you can press the start button to shortcut. This will bypass the win screen and go load the next fight. The same can be done when you lose for a quick rematch. If you choose a special hero, you won't be able to choose your new assist for the next fight. If you choose to shortcut, you'll get a loading screen image that shows the next character you'll be fighting. This is a really cool way to quicken the transition between fights while staying informative for the player. Admittedly, I didn't try to verify if this method is faster, so you'll just have to take my word that it does feel like it. Last but not least is the game's menu. As a home console port, it makes sense to have this. With the menu comes gallery and options. Gallery allows you to view the illustrations, endings, and special heroes. For the artworks and endings, you'll have to beat the game with your corresponding character to unlock them. Options is arguably the most important part of the menu, as it lets you configure the game's difficulty, speed, and time limit. However, there is a secret options menu called the EX option, which you can access by holding select while choosing the options. This lets you set the meter to full or set the recovery speed of red health to fast, both of which you don't normally see in other fighting games. That said, the EX options is a welcome addition, especially if you want to mess around. Hopefully, I've shown just how different of these MVC's PS1 port is compared to the arcade version. While people's claims of this being a nerf is a matter of subjectivity, I do understand where they're coming from. That said, if you really want to play MVC1, I would highly suggest you don't play this version unless A. you have a PS1, or B. you're just really curious. I think it's still a better option to play the original unchanged mechanics since it's been the foundation for most modern fighting games out there. You can play the arcade edition through emulation such as Fightcade for the additional online multiplayer, or you can try to grab a copy of the Dreamcast as it is a nearly identical and loyal port of the arcade version, while sporting some conveniences as a home console port. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, thanks for sticking to the end. This is my first time doing something post-video, so I hope you guys don't mind. I hope you like the video. It's really different from the ones I've made so far. I didn't want to make a retrospective just yet, so I decided to do this instead. I know that my gameplay really sucks, and I plan to rectify that. I've decided to get into fighting games. I've already decided on what game I want to play, I'm just waiting for it to be on sale because I'm cheap. That said, I hope you guys don't mind if I upload some videos of it alongside the retrospectives, videos, essays, whatever else I decide to do. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.